All right, guys. So what we're looking at today is similar to what we looked at yesterday and Friday, except for the fact that the vertex h comma k is not going to be at the point 0, 0. That is the main difference from what we did yesterday to what we're doing today, is that the vertex of the parabola is not at the point 0, 0. It's going to be at the point h comma k. So that changes our dynamics of some of the properties of the two. Now, our focus.
What's up, Hornets? I hope everyone's having a good day. Tomorrow.
All right, guys. So the main difference that this has that the other formulas didn't is that the vertex is not at 0, 0. It's going to be at h and k. So inside each of these formulas that we had before, we're having to incorporate h and k, the values for h and k, to be able to find them. But we're still utilizing these formulas to get to the equations. And that's what we're going to be looking at today, is finding the equations based off the information that is given to us. Now, the first one we're looking at is this here, this parabola. Now, they give us the vertex and the focus. So when we look at the graph, they tell us the vertex is 6, 2. Is on the x-axis, they're going by 2, so 2, 4, 6. And the y-axis is also going by 2, so up 2. So 6, 2. Now we also have the focus. And again, and this would be 10, 2. Because if we're at 6 here, 7, 8, 9, 10. And it's also at 2. Now, just like yesterday, whenever we look at the vertex and focus, it'll tell us which of the two general equations we're looking at based off what changed and what stayed the same. So in the vertex, the x value is 6. The x value of the focus is 10. So it changed. Bless you. The y value of the vertex is 2. The y value of the focus is. So the y value of the focus and the vertex is the same. The x value for the vertex and focus changes. So when I look at the general equations for both of these here, when we have y equals, the vertex is h comma k. For the focus, we have h comma k plus p. So for when we have the equation y equals, from the focus to the vertex, which variable changes, the x or y? From the vertex to the focus. Does the h change from vertex to focus? No, because the vertex is h, the focus is h, yes? For vertex, the k, we have k for vertex, and in the focus it's what? K plus p. So going from vertex to focus, for that one there, the y value changes from the vertex to the focus, yes? Because one of them is k, the other is k plus p. When we look at our other equation for x equals, so I have h comma k. Well, the focus is h plus p comma k. So for this one here, which one's changing, x or y? The x, because in one it's just k, and the new one for the focus is h plus, or k, h plus p. Because in one it's h, the other is h plus p. And the k stay the same. So which one of these two would that line up with? It would be our x equals 1 over 4p, parentheses, y minus k squared plus h. Because again, when we're when we're given the focus and the vertex, we're looking at what changed, what stayed the same. Here, the y value stayed the same, the x values changed from vertex to focus. So when I look at the general equations, k and k, y value stayed the same when it's x equals. When it's y equals, the x values are staying the same. Now, if they already graphed it for us, if it is x equals, we're going left or right. Because if the y value is being squared, it's going left or right. The graph will open left or right. If the x value is being squared, it's going to go up or down. So we know what the general equation is. Now to get the actual equation, I need to fill in values for h, k, and p. Because if I can fill in a value for h, k, and p, we will have the equation. Well, what is the value of h? And k is? Where do we get 6 and 2? Vertex. Vertex is h comma k, yes? So really, if I just look at the vertex, it'll give me the values of h and k. Do we know what the value of p is? Well, it's not directly given to us, but we can find it. Because where is p located in the vertex or focus? Is p located at all in the vertex? No, vertex is what? H comma k. Our focus is what? H plus p comma k. So to get 10, we're saying we take h plus p, and that would give us 10, whatever the value of p is, because the focus is 10 comma 2. The general form for the focus is what? H plus p comma k. So we said k is 2. Okay, focus does have a k value of 2. But our h plus p gives us what? 10, yes? Do we know what the value of h is? So really we're saying 6 plus p is equal to 10. What can I do to find the value of p? We can subtract 6. P is equal to 4. Any questions on how we found h, k, or p? Now the last thing we need to do is just plug it in. X equals 1 over 4. Well, the value of p is 4. Parentheses y minus, well, what's k? 2. And h is 6. So first thing we'll do is plug it in. We do have to simplify a little bit. Not a whole lot, but just a little bit. Because this first part, 1 over 4 times 4, well, 4 times 4 is 16. And that's it. That's all we have to do. Because once we find the values of h, k, and p, we plug it in, simplify that fraction as needed, and we're done. Any questions on this here? Are we ready for the next one? Now in this problem here, they did give us the vertex and the focus. Now what's our location of the vertex? -2, 4, because it went over 1, but they're going by 2, so it'd be -2 and 4. Now our point for the focus is the point 2, 4. And we mainly just got those from the graph. Now looking between the vertex and the focus, what's changing and what's staying the same? Because the x values for the vertex and focus, one of them is -2, the other is +2. The vertex y value is 4. The focus y value is 4. So we can see that the vertex and focus have the same y value. So when I look at the general equations, y equals and x equals, vertex and focus, so we can see where does it stay the same? K and K. So our x equals would be the general equation. Because for the vertex and focus, we just have K and K, where the x value of the vertex of the focus, one of them is h and the other is h plus p. It's going to change. So our general form for this here is going to be x is equal to 1 over 4p, parentheses, y minus k squared plus h. What is the value of h and k? H is, and k is 4. Do we know what p is yet? No? Well, we can go on and plug in what we do know, 1 over 4. Since we don't know what p is, we can leave it blank. Y minus k is going to be y minus 4, close parentheses squared, plus negative 2. So the main thing we need to do at this point is to find the value of p. Now we said p shows up in the focus because h plus p is the x value of the focus. So for us here, h plus p is going to equal what? 2. But you might have been answering another question coming up. Is the value of h is negative 2 plus p is equal to 2. So to get p by itself, we would add 2 to both sides, which exactly would tell me p is 4. Any questions on any of this here so far? So any questions on how we found hk or p? Well, plug it back in and we'll simplify. Well, 4 times 4 is? So we have x equals 1/16, y minus 4 squared minus 2. Because when you add that negative 2, it's the same as just subtracting 2, so we'll just say minus 2. And that's it. Any questions on any of this here? We're ready for the next one. So this one here tells us that the focus is the point 1 comma 0.25 or 0.25. Now what is our vertex? It would be 1, 0. This right here would be the vertex. It is the lowest point on the graph. Now, once we find the 2 pieces of information that they gave us, we need to figure out which equation we're going to use. Are we going to use x equals or y equals? So the y value from the vertex and focus changes between these two, yes? So would we use x equals or y equals? Y equals 1 over 4p, parentheses, x minus h squared plus k. Because again, the vertex is still h comma k. Here, the vertex is going to be h comma k plus P. Well, H in our case is 1. Well, no one's going to say anything. Because this is HK, this is H comma K plus. I don't know why I thought the vertex was on top. K is 0. H is 1, K is 0. I wrote the vertex below the focus. So our K plus P is our P is our 0.25. What is K? 0 plus P is 0.25. So P is Any questions on this here before we plug it in? So I have 1 over 4 times 0.25, parentheses x minus h is 1 squared plus 0. What is 4 times 0.25? 1. 1 divided by 1 is just. So we don't even have to include it. We don't have to write times 1. We can just say x minus 1 squared. Because writing 1 times those parentheses is just the same as writing the parentheses themselves. So we don't need to include it. The same with plus 0. There's no reason to include it. Any questions on this here? We ready for the next one? Okay. Now they're telling us that the vertex is the point 4, 2, and that the focus is the point 4, comma 11 fourths. So we know that the vertex is h, comma k. Now the focus, well, the x value stayed the same. So it's really telling me that 4 is our h, and 11 fourths is h plus p. So which general equation would this match up with? The y equals. So our general equation for this here is going to be our y equals 1 over 4p, parentheses, x minus h squared plus k. So what's the value of h? The value of h is 4. The value of k is, and we'll definitely need to find the value of p. Any questions thus far? Now, we know that h plus p is equal to 11 fourths. Well, what is the value of, not h, what am I doing? That should be k. Because we're dealing with the y component, so it should be k plus p. Sorry about that. Any questions now? I probably already had k plus p written anyways. What is the value of k? Well, 2. So 2 plus p is equal to 11 fourths. So what do? Subtract 2 from both sides. Those cancel, telling me that p is equal to 11/4 minus 2 is 3/4. So the value of P for this here would be 3/4. Any questions on how we found the values of H, K, or P? Well, the last thing we need to do is just plug it back in. So I have Y is equal to 1/4 times 3/4, parentheses X minus, well, H is 4 squared, and K is 2. Well, if we do 4 times 3/4, we'll just get 3. So we have 1/3 of X minus 4 squared plus 2. And that is it. That is all we have to do on this here. Any questions on anything we've done so far? All right, guys, come on. Let's follow along. Thank you. Are we ready for the next one? Okay. So when we look at this here, Colin can already tell us that what is missing from this slide that y'all's notes has. Does the Vertex match up? And the Directx matches up exactly? Mm-hmm. It should be y equals negative 27/2. So your note sheets already have it. Now, up to this point, we've only been dealing with the vertex and the focus. Now, the vertex is still going to give me the value of h and k. Now, the Directx, looking at this here, the Directx, if we're given it, is almost easier to tell which general form we have than the focus and vertex. Why is that? Right, because if we have the equation y equals 1/4p times x minus h squared plus k, the Directx is y equals. The other equation's Directx is x equals. Well, here, since it says the Directx is y equals this number, well, the general form that has that is our y equals 1/4p, parentheses x minus h squared plus k. Because out of the two, that's the only one that has a Directx of y equals. We just look back at the general form and see which one does it match up with. And it matches up with this one here. So at this point here, do we know what the value of p that goes right next to our 4 is? Well, no, we haven't found it yet. X minus, what's the value of h? 5 squared. And the value of k is? -1, so we have -1. So really the only thing we're missing is the value of p. Now the general equation for the Directx was y equals what? Almost. So k minus p is the general form of the Directx, y equals k minus p. Now what did we say in this here that k minus p equaled? -27/2, because that's what they told us the Directx was. Now do we know what the value of k is? So -1 minus p is equal to -27/2. To solve for the value of p, we would add 1 to both sides, which tells us -p, is equal to negative 25 over 2. Or really, P is equal to what? 12.5, or just positive 25 over 2. Because if negative P equals negative 25 over 2, positive P is going to equal positive 25 over 2. I change the sign on one, I have to change the sign on the other. We could also have gone about that by multiplying both sides by negative 1. Gotten the same thing. What do we do next? Plug it in. And after we plug it in, we'll need to simplify that fraction up front. What would 25 over 2 times 4 be? It would be 50. So we have 1/50th times x minus 5 minus x minus 5 squared minus 1. And that's it. That's all we have to do for this here. Any other questions on this here? Are you ready for the next one? I think y'all feel comfortable with vertex focus? Okay. Do y'all want to look at another one with vertex and Directx? I think this is, might be easier just for me to look at the note sheet. Directx. Vertex focus. Yep, this is the last vertex in Directx that we have. Okay. And again, since the Directx is y equals, it kind of tells us exactly which equation we're dealing with, isn't it? It's going to be the y equals 1 over 4p. Parentheses, x minus h squared plus k. Now the vertex tells me the values of h and k. So let's fill those in. Let's fill what we know. 1 over 4 parentheses x minus close parentheses squared plus now what do we know about the Directx? Because it's our k minus p. And since the Directx value was 73 over 8, our k minus p is going to equal 73 over 8. What's the value of k? So 9 minus p is equal to 73 eighths. And then we would minus 9 from both sides, which tells me negative p is equal to so negative p is equal to 1/8, yes? So what's positive p equal? Negative 1/8. Because, I mean, we're dividing by negative 1 or we're multiplying both sides by negative 1. Especially on the ACT, since you're all juniors, you'll have to take that in the spring. Yep. I mean, negative p equals 1/8. I mean, y'all can see by this point, hopefully, that negative p equals 1/8, so p is equal to negative 1/8. We can flip the signs. Just go on and do that. There's no point in writing out multiplication of negative 1 or dividing negative 1 on both sides, especially when we're just changing the sign on both sides. Okay. We're going to have to simplify that a little bit. Because will 4 times negative 1/8 give me a whole number? No, we're going to get a fraction, yes? We cannot leave a fraction inside of a fraction. We have to simplify it. So at this point here, let's get a highlighter. If we wanted to, we could type that entire thing into the calculator and it would do it for us. It would simplify it down. And it would be -2. And we'd have x minus 8 squared plus 9. And that'd be the answer. Now, plugging that in, if you feel more comfortable plugging it into the TI-30XS, the yellow calculators, plug it in there. As it might be, for at least for y'all, a little bit faster to type this into the yellow calculator than the graphing calculator. Because if I wanted to type this into the graphing calculator, we'd have to go alpha y equals enter 1 down 4 parentheses -1 alpha y equals enter 8 close parentheses, and then hit enter. And it tells us it's -2. But the yellow calculator, we can hit the fraction button 1 down 4 fraction button -1/8 enter. It's a little bit faster. Y'all are used to doing that. So utilize that. Because even though the calculators, especially if both of them can do the exact same thing, if you can plug it into the yellow calculator and the graphing calculator and we'll both do it, why not do it on the one you're more used to? Plug it into the yellow one, especially if you can do it faster on the ACT. Anyway, any questions on this here before we look at the next one? We're good with that one there. Okay, so this one here, oh wait, why is this one different? What is different about this one than any of the ones we've done thus far? Do we have the vertex? No, we don't have the vertex at all. We have the focus and the Directx. So without the focus, am I going to be able to figure out which general equation we have or we're looking at? The Directx gives it away, doesn't it? Because x equals. Which one of the two general equations has a Directx set up as x equals? The Directx tells us exactly what we're dealing with. It's saying that x is equal to 1 over 4p parentheses y minus k squared plus h. And again, whenever we're doing these here, I'm just continuously looking back at what do the general equations set up? How are they set up? And how do they kind of look similar to what we have? Now, in the general equation for this here, it tells us that the focus is h plus p comma k. So here we have h plus p comma k. It also tells us that the Directx is h minus p. So do we know what the value of p is so far? Well, no. Y minus, well, what's the value of k? Yeah, because luckily for the focus, it's h plus p comma k. It told us the value of k. And so like we've been doing, the value of h is, do we know the value of h? No, we know what h plus p is and h minus p. So for us, h plus p is what? Well, -63/8. The focus is h plus p. H minus p is our Directx, which is negative. We have a system of equations. So if we're given the Directx and focus, we'll be given a value of h or k, but we have to find the other and p. So we'll have to use elimination. Now, would we add or subtract these? So if we add them together, yes, because p plus negative p is 0. 1 plus -1 is 0, isn't it? Because if we add these, p plus negative p would be 0, yes? What happens if I subtract? What's h minus h? Does it matter if I add or subtract them? No, because I'll find one and then I can use it to find the other. So we can add them together. I would add them together because h plus h is 2h. If we use subtraction, it would be p minus negative p, which is just going to be 2p. So it doesn't matter either way. What is negative 63/8 plus negative 65/8? That looks like it's going to be a nasty number, doesn't it? Which does that reduce? That's really nice. And last but not least, to find the value of h, we would divide both sides by 2, telling us h is equal to negative 8. Now, what's the only thing we're missing? P. So I'm going to put the negative 8 back up there. Well, too far. Now we found out h is negative 8. Now over here, don't we have two equations in terms of h and p? Which one do we want to use? So we could say that negative 8 minus p is equal to negative 65/8. So to solve for p, the first thing we would do is add 8 to both sides, which will tell me that negative p is equal to p is equal to and last but not least, we need to simplify. Well, 1 over 4 times 1/8. I feel like we saw that a minute ago, didn't we? It's just going to be 2 parentheses y plus 7 squared minus 8. And that's it. Any questions on any of this here? How do we feel about this here so far? Well, what is the big thing that we've been focusing on is the general equations, yes? Especially on the review sheet, I would make sure that I have these written down. Now, we don't need two versions of it, because again, we had the version where the vertex was 0, 0, so we didn't have everything written out. But will this work if the vertex is 0, 0? Well, yeah, it just simplifies down. So I would definitely have this on the review sheet. Now, we will finish this packet tomorrow, but what we'll be doing tomorrow is finding the vertex, axis of symmetry, focus, and Directx from the equation. So instead of going from the given information to the equation, we're going from the equation to the given information. We're going backwards.